Well, this is a long time ago, June the 30th. I mean, that's when I got married, 1946, 45.
45? I thought y'all got married before we went to war.
No, we was engaged. I was in high school when the war was going on.
Oh, law. Little girls fell down here.
Memaw, was there any mainstream news that talked about how Pearl Harbor might have been misconstrued on how, well,
That they knew about it and didn't report
yeah,
it.
was that a factor at all in that time?
I heard that on the news, yeah.
Not recently though, back in the day.
Oh no, back in that time, that
Yeah.
was, somebody had, anyway, you ought to, we went to Pearl Harbor, you know. Do you know I've been there?
Yeah.
When I visited my sister, and Linda come from Fiji to meet me there, and we stayed another week with Ann. I stayed almost 2 weeks with her. I did stay 2 weeks with her. And that's in Hawaii. And Honolulu. And what was I going to say?
Talking about the news of Pearl Harbor.
Joe bought some newspapers all about Pearl Harbor, and he'll let you read them.
Yeah, but I said there's not what I'm looking for.
I know you're looking for a story that somebody reported it and it didn't go through the Washington.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, they had radar supposedly, or some sort of way of, I don't know. There's some theories out there,
Yeah.
but it's over and done with now.
Well, now, when you go there, did you?
I've never been there.
I hope you get to go sometime. Did you know you can still see the bullet holes in the houses? You know, where the camp was, you know, and everything. Anyway, and when you go out on that barge, they take you in a boat to that barge out to where they've got a big old monument building built for the, and they're still in there.
No.
And there's oil all around
Still
in
leaking
the
out?
water, and they say that's the soldier's tears, or the serviceman's tears
But it's actually oil.
from the ships. Is there 2 ships down there or 1?
They sunk a few, didn't they? I don't know. They blew up and damaged a bunch, but I think a few was sunk.
And you know what Linda
Big
said?
ships.
There's a lot of Japs go there. A lot of them. And Linda said, wonder what they're thinking. Look what we done to the United States.
I say the same thing we think when we go over and see the atomic bomb place.
Yeah,
It went both ways.
absolutely.
But I was curious about that because
Well, that's true. That's a true story, but I can't tell you all of it. That was reported that it could have been if they'd have listened.
Did you vote for Ike?
Yes.
Did you?
Who else was running?
I don't know.
I would have voted what's that other man's name that MacArthur? That's who your papa was under.
Oh yeah.
And he knew. I mean, he was under Eisenhower too. You know, they made Eisenhower jackets when that
Yeah.
in the service. That's what they call them.
Why did you? I like Ike. Why did you vote for him?
Well, I don't remember. I don't know.
Because I've been watching interesting documentaries about him, and I don't know.
And I voted for Clinton, and a lot of people didn't. But I did. I don't know. I was a Republican because my daddy and mother was. I reckon.
Yeah.
You remember? And listen, I've seen one president been up pretty close to him. The one that was crippled. A lot of people don't know that Franklin D. Roosevelt couldn't stand up.
John, do you drink anything in your coffee?
Oh no.
Huh?
No, I just want a half cup too.
I got decaf if you want decaf. You don't like decaf?
No, I like just.
Mine's instant though. That's what I drink. Should I say how I met your grandfather, or should I call him Peppo?
You call him whatever you want.
I'd call him what you call him.
Especially your favorite nickname for him.
Oh, yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Well, that's what he is. That's the only thing I've ever said in front of my children bad about him. But he had some good points too. I still believe he was the best boy Memaw had.
Yeah. What was the other ones like?
Well, I'm talking about him the more I knew of it. Well, Bud, when he was little, he was me and him was good buddies for a long time. When I first went to, well, I'll tell you about the story. I come up there for a Christmas present for Dennis. He was overseas.
Yeah.
I'll get mixed up. Maybe I better let Linda ask me these questions.
I'm just talking to him. I'm not asking. I mean, I don't.
Okay, now I'm going to kind of set this background here a little bit. That this is a
I suggest you do the background inside here.
Because, you know, sometimes I have senior moments. Have I got time?
What now?
Sometimes I have senior moments.
Oh, don't worry about it.
I think everybody does.
You're allowed to have them. We're not. And I still have them. I'm good at keeping them
Like
track.
that man that tied, it's in the paper tonight, Frank Robinson wrote that a man tied a string around his finger to not forget something, and he forgot what he forgot.
I know, I make lists to make lists.
this is something that I miss not doing family stuff, talking. When we get together, we're too loud. You can't talk to nobody. We never get to hear nothing.
And everybody talks about the same thing.
Well, that's all we know to talk about because we don't really know each other. John's way above his light years
Wait,
of this. But these are items that's in our family. They mean something. So if Mother skips over them, when she gets back to them, we'll kind of hold them up and talk to them. So whenever that takes on, you can do that. So
That's cool.
we're just glad to. So you take this, what you hear, what you remember, talk about it, think about it. It's a story. Now, one day, if God allows and y'all have children, you can share this. But if not, we've got other family. You can share it with other people about our families, just like story, down and down and down. So whenever I pass, as Mama says, as Carla says, this will be handed down through our generation. So if you have a wife, she might end up wearing yours.
Philip's treasure.
There's our Philip's treasure, and we want you to know the meaning of them.
You better ask me. I can't read
Okay.
that. It's dark. I mean, just give me a hint when it's
Okay.
dark.
Tell me how you, when you first met Peppo, how old were you?
I was 15 years old, and I was working as a car hop at Dennis's place. It was a
What?
restaurant.
And
What?
Dennis's place, not Dennis
Well,
Dennis,
grandfather.
okay. What grade of school were you in when you met him?
11.
11th grade.
This is in Chattanooga.
I lived in Chattanooga.
And you were 15?
I was 15 but I didn't tell him that. And I was working at
What
Dennis.
time, how old was he then? How old did you tell him he was?
Well, I was working at Dennis's place, and this as a car hop, and this car come up, and it had a lot of soldiers in it, and Dennis was driving it, and
You're going a little too fast for me. I'm asking questions, okay? How much money did you make at being a car hop?
$5 a week. I didn't work all week till in the summertime because I went to school. I just worked on the weekend, and I don't remember what I made, but I made good in tips.
Okay. So
But I was a car, like I said, I was a car hop, and that's a waitress car up. And
Did you have
y'all know
did you
what
have,
that is,
roller
don't
skates?
you? No,
No.
we didn't have roller skates.
So how did you meet Daddy then? You
Well,
were
he
working.
drove up in a car one day with a bunch of soldiers, and they wanted some sandwiches and things.
What did the car look like?
A big old home car. It was a Packard, to tell you the truth.
Whose car was it? Was it his car?
I don't know. They borrowed it, and they come out. He was at Fort Oglethorpe.
Was there more than one person in it, just Daddy, or
No, there's several soldiers, and here I come out to wait on them. I was in the building, come out, and later I learned that Dennis said I'm gonna marry that girl one day, and I didn't hear that, and.
Did he ask you? Did he talk to you? Did he ask you for any?
Yeah, he asked me, we got to talking, he asked me for my telephone number, and I gave it to him.
Was you nervous?
Why no, it was just a good-looking soldiers in that car, there's a lot of them.
What, did he call you right away?
No, it was several weeks later. He'd forgot about me, I knew, because I hadn't thought too much about him.
That's the way it
And,
works.
because I'd give my telephone numbers to a lot of soldiers.
Mm.
And,
Mind you, remember she was 15.
and then, but when he asked me for a date, he never did ask my age. He asked me for a date, and when he did, well, Mother let me go. But he asked me how old I was, and I told him I was 16. So that's okay.
So
If I know, see, I met him. My birthday's in August, and I can't remember the month, but I remember when Linda asked me how old was I when I got married.
Well,
And I was 18, but I was more 19 because I got married in June, and I'd be 19 in August.
hey, tell us about your first date then, when Daddy.
Oh, this is where it gets good.
Well, I told him first, I said, now you're going to have to come to the door and ask for me. My mother will not let me go out. And I thought that's what he'd do, and I guess he forgot. Because he drove up in a car that he had borrowed and blowed the horn, and I heard him. And I jumped up, I was going to go out there and tell him. You know, we're going to go, and my mother said, Lola Lee, you sit down. If he's not man enough to come in and ask for you, you're not going with him. So I sat down. And after a while I had to go to I don't know whether I went to the bathroom or went somewhere anyway, and I slipped out the back door and run out there and told him that he'd have to come and knock on the door and ask for me if he wanted me to go anywhere. And I went back in the house, and sure enough, there was a knock on the door, and Mother went to the door, invited him in.
Do you think your mother knew that you went out there?
No, she didn't. Wow.
Was she mad at him?
No.
Well, tell me how. Now, of course, this was it during World War II. How was Daddy dressed when he come to pick you up?
His army uniform, he had on riding pants and boots and an Eisenhower jacket. He was in the 6th Cavalry, and they rode horses in the parades. They used a lot of horses out at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. And then after it's a few years later, he was in the 3rd Army. He was riding motorcycle. And when he went overseas, he rode a motorcycle. And I had sent him an 8x10 picture of me, and over, I don't know what town it was, but he told me, but I can't remember. His motorcycle had been
Confiscated?
Yeah, by the enemy. And they had my picture, and how he got that back, I don't know. But
How did he lose the
I can't
motorcycle?
remember.
Yeah. How do
If
you?
he left it in a barn or somewhere. Yeah.
I guess they threw it back
Maybe he's
in.
out somewhere.
Well, anyway,
Okay.
I was before he went overseas. I'll get back to this. he asked me to marry him. And I was talking to my mother about it, and she said, no, I wouldn't,
How
Lola.
many times did you guys go on dates before that?
I'd say off and on we never did date on the weekend. I don't know whether he had duty or had another girlfriend or what. I never even thought about that. But we dated during the week, just on Friday night, and maybe sometimes on Saturday if he come.
Did you have you had to be home a certain time, or?
Yeah, I had to be home by 10:30. See, I was still in high school.
What did your dad think of him?
He never did say. My dad was quiet.
Well, if Daddy was dressed in his uniform like he was, what did you wear? What was your style of clothing?
Well,
What
most
did you
of
all
the
wear?
most of the time I'd wear a brown skirt and my boots. I had boots and wear a nice blouse, you know.
Boots are made for walking.
And yeah.
Wear riding pants.
And later, I bought me a pair of riding pants. And how I got them riding pants, my mother sent me to the dentist, and it cost $3 to have a tooth filled, and $2 to have it pulled. And I told the dentist to pull it, and I told my mother it couldn't be filled, and I shouldn't have lied. I hated that drilling in my mouth, and I had 2 of them like that, so I had $4, and I went and bought me a pair of riding pants.
So you had your teeth pulled by riding pants.
Goodness.
Instead of having them filled, yes, I did. But my mother should have looked into that, because I went to the dentist by myself.
So where would you and Daddy go when he came to Chattanooga? Where would you all go on dates?
Well, sometimes we go to the movie, and most of the time just ride around, talk, and we'd go out and eat. And because I had to be home so early.
Did you kiss a lot?
Oh yeah.
What kind of date was he? Was he interesting?
Very. Yeah, he was a perfectly gentleman.
How old was he?
Very nice. Well, I don't know. When we got married, he was 25,
Okay, so
and I was 19, almost
4
20.
years later, so
22,
21, 22.
He was 5 years older than me, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, see, when I met him, I was 15.
So-
But, and what?
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know.
I was just saying, so you all, I guess, dated, and he would leave. Did he go when he went overseas? How he he asked you to marry him? How did he do that? What?
Well, he just asked me to marry him, and he said, I won't be going overseas for a while. And my mother told me, she said, Lola, I wouldn't if I was you. And I listened to my mother. And I didn't, and if I hadn't, Wayne would have been 6 years older than he is now.
So you said yes, or you wouldn't then, or you
No,
just
I
kind of
told him
thought
no,
you would?
but we became engaged, and he had to go overseas not long after that. And his sister Ann, he sent her the money to buy me an engagement ring, and she bought the whole set, you know. He told her what he wanted me to get.
And this is the engagement ring.
Yeah. And
Describe it.
I'll get it on, can't get it off, Linda will get me.
Okay, I'll pass it around, let the boys look at it. I can share this with you, that it was cut. Mother would show it to us because she couldn't
It was
wear
broke.
it. It was broke. It was because she wore it so long, and it was so thin, it wore down. And this is what Daddy, during World War II time, would get an engagement ring. So that, I've got the band too. Mother gave me one. It was wore down where she wore it so long that it just wore in two.
And it was bought at some jewelry here in either Elizabeth or Johnson City, I don't know.
it used to have stuff on it.
It's got little heart, is that the one that's got the
it's-
heart?
That's all it was like. That's what it was like.
2 diamonds, supposed to be like 2 little diamonds
Well,
on each side.
It's supposed to be 3 diamonds. There's 2 there.
So, did you and Daddy, did you mail letters and gifts and
Oh
stuff?
yeah, And since I was in school, he'd send me stamps to write to him. We wrote back and forth all the time. And I can still remember his serial number, 7008572.
Now, what was it?
7008572.
You have to put that on all the letters.
Yeah. And a soldier didn't have to pay postage to write a letter.
So, what gifts would you send Daddy?
I sent him a Bible with a bulletproof back, and I'd send him cookies and different things.
Did he ever send you gifts?
Oh yeah, and you know pillow tops used to be the main thing the soldiers would send to their sweethearts, and I've had a lot of them
What's a pillow top?
from different soldiers too.
What's a pillow top?
You see,
Like a pillowcase?
like that pillow there, these pillow tops they'd sell to go like that with a pillow in it that was real pretty, had the name of, sometimes the name of the outfit they were in or something like that.
So, I missed something. You said you had a lot of boyfriends send you stuff overseas.
Well, they wasn't friends.
Yeah, friends.
Yeah, I did. I had a lot of pen pals.
While you were engaged?
Well, that's when, no, before we became engaged. Well, I still had some, but I'd write them. And I didn't go with them, but they say write to the servicemen, they're lonely. So I did.
Who was they? Who said that?
That was on the
Slogan.
no, that's what they were told us to do.
Did you ever go to these USO things
No.
and dance?
No, I didn't do. They had big bands in Chattanooga, like
Swing dancing.
Glenn Miller was there once, but they had bands that met on the corners and did things for advertisement to go see them, and they were real good. But no, I never did go.
You're missing a sheet.
Well, I don't know where it is. Is that thing now?
Okay.
But it's okay.
So tell me now then about your the time. What did you all eat during wartime, Mama?
What you eat now?
Where was your favorite place to hang out?
Well, I like to go to a drive-in, like where I worked. Maybe we had two there, Deeran's place and that Dennis's place. You could get a very good barbecue sandwich and Coca-Cola and something like that. And he never did drink in front of me. I don't know whether he drank or not. He never did in front of me. And most of the time when we go on a date, though, he got off from work kind of late, and you know the serviceman feed him, but the army fed him, but he would if he stayed and had supper, it'd be later, you know, and he knew I had to be in early, so he'd come and we'd go somewhere and he'd eat, and his favorite meal he'd buy almost a half a chicken. He was hungry. Fried chicken, you know, they weren't real big. And he said, well, because I'd already had my dinner, and he said, well, you've got to eat something, so I'd eat a ham sandwich and drink a Coke. Yeah, that was pretty good for me.
Did y'all listen to music in the car? Or
Oh,
with
yeah.
Daddy? What
Yeah,
kind of
sometimes.
any music?
I don't remember,
You know.
Linda, just swing music,
Well,
okay?
this is one of the gifts that Daddy sent Mother
No, oh, yeah.
from Germany. It's a amethyst stone. It was on a little necklace chain, but the chain just broke apart and everything. But it's an amethyst stone.
It changes colors.
It's beautiful. It looks good on any color dress you can wear. And I put
Did you
that
buy
chain
it or
on it.
just fell?
I guess he bought it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hand it to me. I'll pass it around. This is an amethyst. I don't know how much value it is. It's very old and it comes from Germany, so it's a stone from.
I don't know why they got it off some German girl. He bought it over there. I don't have any idea. I don't know.
Huh.
But he brought a lot of souvenirs back.
So
And
Do
then
you know where Daddy was stationed? Any while he was overseas?
Yeah.
Where?
He was in France during the. He's a lot of places, but I can't remember all of them. But he was in France, and he was in Ireland once, and he met his brother Ron there. His brother was in the service too. Back then, two brothers, they didn't want them to be in the service because something might both get killed. But they was. He was. He had two brothers in the service. Ed and Ron and him.
Yeah, there was some.
And them, huh?
Yeah.
You remember all them Navy brothers that got killed?
Yeah, I was gonna say there was the I can't remember their name.
Oh, yeah, well after that, that's when they
Yeah.
started
They
that.
didn't want a whole bloodline.
Yeah.
Okay, so Daddy came home, what, in 1945?
He come home, the war was just well say over, but he got out first, he got to come home. And he come to my house first. And
How was that day?
nervous.
Did you know he was coming?
Yeah.
Did you know he was coming that day?
The day that he come, yeah, he called me.
Oh, he
And,
called you before he came.
Uh-huh. And see, and I don't know where he stayed, in a hotel somewhere, I guess.
So you all had planned on getting married? Or?
Yeah, and he come that night, and he brought. I didn't have a suitcase to put nothing in to go, because I knew we was gonna leave that night at 6 o'clock to go to his house, or the next after we got married. This was on a Friday.
Okay, so you got married on a Friday?
No, this was on a. Well, I say a Friday. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well, tell us about your wedding day. Tell us the start from the very first moment. Tell us about your wedding day.
Well,
What you wore and how you got to where you went. Where did you go and who was there? So.
Well, when the day I got married, he brought, he come in a cab. We knew to be ready. My mother and my sister and her little girl, Brenda Joyce. My sister Ann and her daughter, Brenda Joyce, they went with us. And
Where did you go?
Rossville, Georgia, to the courthouse. A justice of the peace married us. And the cab waited till we got married.
What day was that? June what?
30th, 1945. And
What did Daddy wear?
he wore his uniform. He didn't have on riding pants. He had on his regular pants. And
What did you wear?
I paid more for my pocketbook than the whole outfit.
How much?
It was I don't remember.
$15?
I think it's about $19. My pocketbook was. I never felt it was all leather. It was a nice white pocketbook. I had on white spectator pumps, brown and white spectator pumps, or white all over. I can't remember. And I had on white gloves, and I had on a blue dress. It wasn't two-piece, but it looked like it was. It had a tunic down on it with white. It was not rickrack. It was just some kind of binding. Anyway, it was pretty. I had that, and I had a corsage. He got me a orchid. And then when we come back,
Well, what, did he give you a gift or anything?
yes, he did. Before I got married, he brought me this diamond necklace from Germany, and it's very pretty. I thought it was. He had two, and he let me pick out which one I wanted, and he gave the other one to his sister Ann.
Describe that one.
Well, how would you say that
It's
shape?
got little diamonds, and tell about the pearl.
Oh, well, now that's after we was married. Up when
Yeah.
y'all was
Might as
with
well
me.
tell it.
Every time I'd wear it, one of the children, like, you know how a child fool around your neck, and everybody does, and it would break. And it kept Dan busy taking it to the jeweler to have have a thing like this, glass put on it. And I gave this to Linda. She liked it.
And it had a pearl in it. And it
Oh yeah, it had a pearl in it. And I was gonna clean it one day. Wasn't nobody there but me. The children were in school. And I took this jewelry cleaner like you use, and I dropped that pearl, and I couldn't find it. And I stepped on it and didn't know it, and it just squat and just like a powder, and you can tell that's a real pearl when it does that. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think so.
And Dennis didn't know it, and I never told him in my life. And I went in there and found me a little bead and glued it in there.
Is the bead still on here?
Yeah.
No, it
did?
came out, and so I had a little stone put in it.
You did?
It's
Well-
made, it's platinum. It's old.
Yeah,
and it
it's
came
platinum
from
on
Germany
the
too.
back.
It's a platinum. And the chain broke too, and I got a chain put on it at Peter's Jewelry Store in Lisbethton. And it's old timey platinum jewelry. That's what they used to make jewelry out of back then.
But I was gonna tell you, after we got married, like I told you, my mother and little niece went with me to get married, and then after the marriage, we come back home, and Mother cooked a real good dinner for us.
Did you have a wedding cake?
Yes, and then my daddy would have went with us, but he had to work, so
Did
he
you
didn't get
dance?
to go. He was a stonemason.
He said, "Did you dance? Did you have a little?"
No, we were at the courthouse.
And then you come home in
Uh-huh.
a cab.
Yeah, come home in the cab. And then me and Dennis went up somewhere. He had to go somewhere. And
So you walked to town.
yeah, we walked. We could have took a bus, but get a cab, but it wasn't too far uptown from where I lived. And then we left at 6
What
o'clock.
was your first gift Daddy ever bought you after you got married? You walked uptown and you got what?
A suitcase. Had to put my clothes in. And then
To go traveling or just to
we went to we
Butler.
went to Butler's right after we got married that night on the Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Well, can I tell you boys about the suitcase? Because it was a little blue suitcase, like a hard cardboard, because we played with it. Mama had it at the house, and Tina, we'd put clothes in it, and we'd have it outside, and sometime when Tina, your mother, was a baby, sometimes she'd sit in it, or we'd make a baby doll bed. We played with that suitcase, and we had an old-timey car that Daddy had. In our backyard, you've heard the story about Daddy got us a little Rambler, and we'd play. Well, we'd pack that suitcase, and Tina was just a baby, and we'd get in the car with our that same little suitcase. So we wore it out. It was just
I had it when I
wore
lived
out.
here.
And anyway, it was we would play with it, and that's how we had it. So that was Daddy's first gift that he bought Mother. So his 5 children enjoyed playing with it greatly.
Yeah.
So then how did you leave your house to go to the train station?
We got a cab.
You rode the Chattanooga
And
Choo-Choo?
we got on the Chattanooga Choo Choo
Where did you go to?
to Johnson City, Tennessee. And all his family was there. His mother, his dad, well, now 2 brothers wasn't. They were still in service. And his sister and her family and husband, and then he had another sister. She was there. She wasn't married, and then a brother, Bud. And I don't know whether y'all have ever seen Uncle Buddy or not.
It's Gary Dean's dad. So that was that the first time you'd ever met Memaw Phillips?
No, while Dan was in service. I wrote and asked him what he'd like me to send him for Christmas, and he said he would like for me to go visit his mother
Where?
and dad at Butler, Tennessee. And I'd never been to Butler, and it just so happened.
Now remember, she lives in Chattanooga, a big
City girl.
where they have
And,
buses and trains and.
I had I'm about to forget, Linda.
So you
She
and
wanted
Dorothy.
I had graduated from high school while he was overseas. And I had got a job. I worked at the Standard Coosa Thatcher.
What do you make?
What was that?
It's a thread mill where you have these big old warps of thread, and I was a quiller. I had a stick in my hand doing like this on a great old big bench. I took a man's job because he was in service. I had to give it up and he come back. That was the understanding back then. If you took a serviceman's job, you had to give it back to him when he comes back. And I worked there a year. But anyway, we put thread on these bobbins, and then after them bobbins was full, they were doused. That's what they call it. And they took them all off and put them in a little buggy, as you call it, and pushed it down back to the back winding department and put it on the cones like this. After I put it on wooden big spools, had about 100 and something spools on my machine, and each one of these had to go. And every time I found a thread that had 4 plies in it, I would get 7 cents, and I made $40 a week.
So you took your money and went to Butler, Tennessee.
Well, anyway, I was going to tell you when we got there, all them people there.
On your honeymoon, or when you went to see
No,
Memaw?
when we went, we didn't have a honeymoon, Linda. I guess
Okay, let's go
getting
back
on that
up.
Chattanooga
Let's back
tree
up.
was. Well,
Okay.
now listen. And we went up to, I was going to tell you about his mother. He hadn't seen his mother in 6 years. Because he was, in the service. And they had all them people, and they had several cars. And his sister Ann asked me if I'd ride with her and her family and let Dennis ride with his mother and dad. And naturally I said yeah, but I said if I had to do over now, I wouldn't have.
You're just a young bride.
I'd have said, no, let me be with them too.
Sure.
But we did. And
So where did you left there? Where'd you spend your first night?
at Aunt Ann's
What's the
house.
address?
403 South Rome Street in Elizabeth. And then, but I was going to tell you before we got married, when I went to Butler to see his mother.
While Daddy was in service.
Yeah. I thought that Butler was a big town, and I was afraid I'd get lost. And but while I was telling you I worked at Standard Coosa Thatcher, I had a girlfriend that worked there that she had a aunt and uncle that lived in Elizabeth, and isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
And they were going up there to see him, and they said, won't you go with us? And my mother let me go, or she wouldn't have let me go if I hadn't. Because, see, I was still young. And I went with them, and I know we had to go up a big hill. And sometimes I wonder if it's that hill going up to, where Harold McCormick's school is?
Where they used to
It's
live.
possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember. And that's where we stayed with them. And Dorothy went with me to Butler. And I got his little brother the next day. He went with us to town to go back. We had to go back the next day. But when we got there, they wasn't there. Somebody was, but Miss Phillips wasn't. Several people got killed in some kind of shooting or a car wreck or something. And they lived in a pretty house. Big old river down in front of it.
That's why they weren't there, is because some.
No, they went to a funeral.
Because somebody must have it.
Papa was there by himself. Memaw had gone to a funeral.
Yeah.
And he was glad to see me. And he was nice. He looked like Dennis. And but when I told the bus driver, I said, now please don't forget to let me off at Butler. He said, lady, and they didn't say lady, what did he say? He said, I will show you exactly where to go. I know where they live. Well, that made me feel at ease. So we come across the little bridge, and that bus stopped, and I didn't see nothing.
said,
Except
"Mrs. Butler?"
a few houses over here, and back here was two houses all I seen. And he said, you go down this road, and it's that second house back there. And sure enough, that's where they live.
Little as you know, you're at the bottom of a lake.
Oh, God.
Well, but I had a good time, and it's very nice.
You finally did get to meet.
Yeah, they were all
Her?
there. Yeah, we spent the night with them, and they were glad to see me and to meet me.
Have they heard about you?
Yeah.
And what were their
Dennis, you know,
names?
Roe Phillips, Papa and Memaw. Did you know? Didn't you?
Hesse.
Hesse and Roe Phillips. Monroe.
She
his
was a
name.
weaver, Hesse Weaver, and Thomas Monroe Phillips.
Mm-hmm. And they were put out of Butler because of the flood. They lost everything they had, and the Red Cross helped them get furniture to get back in. I didn't know them then.
And then that's when Daddy bought, we're jumping ahead, but that's when Daddy bought the church at Butler and built our house.
Mm-hmm, the Christian church at
Bought
Butler.
brick.
So where was your first home together?
Out to ourselves.
Am I?
We moved to Kingsport. I was pregnant with Wayne, and I already had my bassinet fixed and everything. We were living with his family. Back then, when a serviceman come home, I can remember them telling Dennis that you don't have to look for a job now. Take it easy. And that's all right. If you're married, you want to marry and get out to yourself. I didn't get out to myself till home till before she was born. We lived in apartments. But anyway,
You lived in Kingsport.
we went to Kingsport, yeah, and that lady that I first told Dennis, I said, I'm not gonna have this baby till you get me out to myself. I thought I could wait.
Who were you living with then?
Mamaw and Papa on the weekends, and Aunt Ann. I didn't like that, but I didn't complain to him. Only I told him, I said, I ain't gonna have this baby unless you move me out.
Now, boys, you got to remember, this is their first year of marriage.
It's best to get out
So-
to yourself.
So let me back up and help, so we can help answer Jeremy's question where you live. You spent your honeymoon at Aunt Ann's on Rome Street. So you got up that morning. Was Daddy there? when you
No,
woke up?
Daddy wasn't there. He'd done been to Johnson City and picked up all his gear. At the train station. I was sound asleep.
So you woke up and that your husband was gone?
Yeah, no, he woke me up. I was still asleep.
Oh.
And he'd done been to the train station and got all his clothes and everything, and I didn't know it.
And so we've got a picture of you and Daddy in his uniform and you in your wedding outfit. So Aunt Ann, you said she took that picture?
Yeah.
2 days after you were married. We've
Yeah.
got a picture, Mother. I didn't bring it, but so we have a picture of Mother. And so they've been married 2 days, and Aunt Ann, you all went to the studio. And tell them about the studio.
The Mettler studio on Elk Avenue, they own that. Her father and mother-in-law did, and she took that and painted it and everything, and that's a picture. It was in the paper.
So to answer Jeremy's questions, you stayed with Aunt Ann, and then on the weekends you'd
We'd
go
go
to
see
Memaw and
Memaw and
Papa's.
And then we moved to Kingsport. That's where
Why
my
did you move? Why was it Kingsport?
Dennis worked at the what's that big plant
Eastman?
over there? Eastman. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask, being a young bride, to stay back on your wedding, being a young bride, when did you go back home? Did you go back to Chattanooga anytime soon, or?
2 weeks. I got so homesick. We went back home. He promised Mother he'd take me back if I got homesick, and I did. And he took me.
Did you ever get to have a honeymoon, just you and him, several weeks later?
We really wasn't a honeymoon, but I guess if you wanted to call it that, we went to South Carolina to visit he hadn't seen his Uncle Bynum, that's Mamaw's brother, and his wife, Aunt Maddie. And we went up there. And we went out, and they were having airplane rides, excursion, and Den wouldn't get on it, and I got on it and rode the airplane up. He wanted to do a flip, and I said, please don't.
Why would
I'm
why
real
would
proud
Papa
of
not get on the plane?
Well, he did. Well, it was a small plane. Two could get on it, but they were just riding around. He just didn't want to, and he wouldn't get on it.
Yeah, he's feel.
And but I don't know. I reckon I was brave enough to get on it, and I can remember so much stuff, but my mind don't work as good as it used to.
So when did Papa get his first job? Was that in Kingsport? You were pregnant when he got his first job?
Oh yeah, he worked at Eastman and come back and forth, and then he found this apartment, but they didn't rent to children, and they didn't know I was about ready to have one.
Yeah.
So we moved in. We lived there a while till we bought the church, a Christian church. They were selling them buildings up there, and we finally moved back to Butler, and we rented a house at Butler to ourselves.
All this traveling back and forth from Chattanooga, Kingsport, Butler, is this mainly by train or car?
Well, it was by train first time we went back, because he didn't have a car. He finally bought him one later, but me and the children would go home. We'd ride the Chattanooga choo-choo streamline.
How much did it cost for a ticket?
I don't remember. I'd say about $6. I don't know.
I can remember us riding the train. We'd ride a, what they called a plant bus. And we would go to the bus station in Johnson City. Mom would take all of us. And it'd be Wayne and me and Danny and Bobby. Tina wasn't born, I don't think.
And I can tell you what Bobby done.
And we would go in this train station in Johnson City. And it was so scary. This is just my remembering. Because there would be a lot of old men walk around. They looked like, a lot of them were veterans. They just hung out at the train station. Panhandles. And it would be dark, it would be scary, and it would be cold. And Mother would make scrambled egg sandwiches on white bread wrapped in wax paper. And that's what we would have for our lunch. We'd eat, she'd feed us. And we'd sit down in the train, like we'd sit here and some would sit here, and you just face each other. And they'd have water fountains where you could get a jug of water and it'd bubble, glass,
Yeah, how they
and it would bubble.
buy water
and-
and put in this container.
And it had little pointed cups. For us, we'd never seen anything like that, and inside the train, it would be fascinating that you could pull a cup out and get a cup and watch the water go. And mind you, we lived in Hampton and didn't even see nothing like that. And Danny was in the train.
Bobby.
No, it was Danny.
Oh.
And he would run, and he would come back, and he had about that many cups. He'd just get it to get
And
the
he
water.
bring them to me. I didn't know.
Drink, just get it and drink just to hear the bubble down. And
They'd have to
Bobby
fill it
would
up.
sit in the train station, the window. He would sit in the window, and I don't know if Tina was baby. I don't think
No,
she
I
was.
didn't have Tina.
But because that's why I remember Bobby as a baby would just sit in the window. Little boy, he just wanted to sit in the window as the train would just go by like that. But that's my memories of going, and we'd sit down and Mama would get that egg sandwich out. We'd eat that, and I loved it'd have lots of mayonnaise on it and have scrambled eggs. And that to me, that was because that was new as an adventure. Mother always made us feel like we was on an adventure. Everything we did.
Did you do that on purpose, Memaw?
What?
Make them feel like it was an adventure.
Well, I
I
had
say
to
it just
do
was an
something. Had to be
adventure,
good.
For her, because she was young, and I mean, she was had barely been married 9 months when she had Wayne.
I was married 10 months,
Okay.
exactly, to the day.
Why did I don't want to get in anything personal, but you think it's just because boys come back and being rambunctious or something after all that war? But it's the whole generation. They call it the boomer generation because there's so many kids. Was there something that people were just saying, have a bunch of kids, or just something? Why was people having all these kids? Or was it just the spirit of the moment?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's 'cause they was overseas and he come home overseas. Maybe they didn't have no girlfriends
I
over
can
there.
answer that.
They had German girls. Okay.
I can answer that.
Well,
During the World War II, before the World War II, America was at peace. There was no industry, that much industry going on. Women did not work. Men worked, had jobs. You didn't have a car. You rode a plant bus. You rode a train. It depends on where you live. But during World War II, they became so industry by making planes. The material that they had, they realized they could use some kind of material and make something else. Women started working, like that money, like the positions, like the things. So it became a very industrial time. And it became, we had a lot. You didn't have furniture. You moved in with your in-laws. Like Mother and Daddy, they went back to Butler, quote, country, and lived with in-laws. A lot of people came out of service, went to school for the first time, had jobs. The women kept a job. The women had, and then become pregnant. It was just a big baby boomer. That was something. Nick Carter.
Fill the factories, huh?
Baby factories and factories. So really, that was why it was, because they never had. You had outside toilets, and then all of a sudden you've got inside toilets. You had pumped water. You had to pump water pump, and then you had water in that, because Mama, when she would tell us as a child being in Chattanooga how she lived, I thought she was from New York City, because we lived in
Wonderland.
Hampton, where there's no sidewalk, where she went roller skating every day, walked to the movies, went and
stayed in
got
the
home,
nursery.
had a daycare, was in daycare. As a little kid, she was in daycare.
My
So,
mother and daddy both
Well, you're
worked.
talking living in Hampton. It's just like,
We had a cafeteria in school.
Okay.
but if that helps answer your question, but the baby boomers, we grew up having everything,
But
because our parents they didn't, it's like they got married. You go to Nick Carter, you buy your living room suit, you buy your washer and dryer, you buy your bedroom suit, you get a stove, you have your whole
Consumerism
house.
started.
So Mama and Daddy, when they got married, you didn't have a washing machine. You had or you had a washing machine, but you
Rub
hung your
board.
clothes out. So we grew up with having all this, and it was just an industrial time and a half time. So, and and Americans, if we don't have it, we can make it.
But I can tell you one thing. When Dennis and I moved to Kingsport, I fixed supper while he was moving the stuff in. We rented an apartment with everything in it. Beds, everything. I had to take my linens and stuff like that, but the dishes and everything was in there.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that I had to keep a fire in that stove in that apartment. It heated that whole big apartment, all them apartments upstairs. Well, I didn't know that. And it was hot, and I didn't put all that coal in there, and it went out. I had to build it. They didn't have no hot water. And the people upstairs, see, they was paying for that apartment had hot water. Well, the dentist didn't tell me it had to be that way, but he had to keep that fire going.
Well, I'm gonna jump back on your wedding. Do you remember your first meal you ever cooked?
I
Daddy?
sure do. That was where it was.
Oh, at
While he was
Kingsport?
bringing in the stuff out of the car, bassinet and all the stuff. See, we didn't have wine yet. I fixed fried sweet potatoes and steak gravy, and I made biscuits. And that's the first time I ever made biscuits with my hands. That's how Memaw made it, and that's how my mother make it. And I got my hands in that dough just to make it. I was going to make good biscuit. I got that all over me. I couldn't get it off. I didn't know you're supposed to take flour and get it off. And I said that's the first time and the last time I ever made biscuits with my hands. I've used a spoon ever since. Now that's the truth.
Huh. Okay.
Well, that's the time of Mama's meeting to Papa. That's how the family started.
What's that box?
This box was what we don't know what came in this box.
That didn't come in there.
But this was what Mama kept the necklace in. And I've got it, I wrote the story in here. Dad gave this to Mother right after they got married. She lost the pearl out of it, and I put on a new chain.
Do you have any stuff that's been passed down to you, Memaw?
Yes, my mother gave me one pillow,
And I've got it.
and I bought some stuff. I bought me a bedspread and paid for it, and I bought me an electric iron, and I bought me an electric water heater that you put in water a little, put in the tub and it'd heat, See, when we took a bath in Chattanooga, we didn't have a bathtub. We'd take a bath in, now they had bathtubs, but we didn't have one in our house. We took a bath in a washing tub in a bedroom with drawn drapes, nobody could see in.
Did your family ever come up and visit you in Butler?
Mm-hmm.
Did the in-laws get along?
Well, yeah. See, we lived by ourselves for a while up there. I had Wayne, but we rented this house while they was tearing down the church and cleaning it up till we got
So
ready
Bob's
to move.
house is 61 years old. They built that. They were building the house while Mama was pregnant with me. And you had
And
me,
it was ready
and
when
we moved
Linda,
in.
just before Linda was born.
That's a tough one, but was you guys married before or after your mom got killed?
Before. My
You
mother
married?
come
They
to
were
see
married,
us.
and I was born,
You was
and
little.
Tina,
So you
Danny.
met her when
I don't remember, no, but Bobby was the baby, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Bobby was the baby, and I don't remember.
Mother
Mama,
never did
I
get
remember
sick,
going to
Tina.
Memaw Kazort's house, just vaguely to remember being at a big house
Tina
with
never did.
a table, a big table. That's all I know. Just a table with food on it. I don't remember nothing else about Memaw Kazort. But
We had an ice box. We didn't have refrigerator. And that was my job to carry the water out. It had to be emptied every day. Ice melts. And when we wanted ice, there was an ice wagon come by. It was drawn by horses. And they would, we had a card. 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 75 pounds, 25 pounds. It was whatever you wanted, you put that card on your door, that much, and that man would stop and bring it to your house. You ever seen ice holders?
Kind of like that thing over there.
And he'd put it in the ice box, come in the house. And I didn't know they kept sawdust around the ice. That's how they
Insulate.
keep it. And a tow sack, he'd have that over his back where he wouldn't get too wet like that. And then there was an ice house down about a block from our house, and we could go down there if we run out and get a block of ice. I could carry a 25 pound, but I couldn't get no bigger.
so really, people now. Oh, go ahead.
There's a lot of talk of the weather. I'm just curious. There's a lot of talk of the weather these days. Do you remember, as far as like the patterns and everything, is the weather kind of the same? The changes?
We had more snow back then. I've seen snow up to our window.
Really?
Right there at Hampton where I live.
How many
and
times?
When I was little too.
How often did that happen?
How hard was the winters?
I don't know how often, Jeremy. When I was little, it snowed all the time in the winter. I mean, when I was going to school, it didn't bother us. We got out and walked in it. We had sidewalks. We could walk. I walked to school a lot. My mother begged me to ride the bus because I could ride the bus for 3 cents. And she said, "You're wasting more shoe leather. I'd rather buy you bus tokens." And we wanted to walk. I was thin.
So you think it snows less now?
I believe it's cold now, but I believe it was colder back then.
What about the summers? Were they hotter then?
Yeah, and we didn't have a air condition. We just had screens on our
Oh,
window
that makes
and a
sense.
fan in church. But it was hot. but
Let me ask you one more thing.
it's more hot now, I
I
guess.
see these pictures back in the day before people had air conditioning, and I've worked in a place. The down home was like the last place they got air conditioning, and I've worked in there, sweating, and how did those people wear all those clothes and suits all
Well,
the
I'm
time?
gonna tell you what we did where I
with
worked.
no air conditioning.
Where I worked, we didn't have air conditioning. It's a plant. It's hot. We had salt tablets and water.
What?
They had plenty of cold water, and we had to take salt tablets.
Salt dries you out, though.
Well, I don't care.
But
That's
what
what we
that
had to
service
take.
people when you wear that salt tablets to keep you from
And
dehydrating.
it was hot, and
Salt dries you out, though.
well,
it takes the
you had to
sweat.
drink a lot of
Sweat.
water.
Drink a lot of water.
Oh,
It
to
keeps
make you
from sweating.
thirsty?
No, it keeps
Yeah.
you from sweating.
Well, you had to drink a lot of water to take them salt tablets.
Uh,
We could drink, and we could
Did it
get,
make you cooler?
yeah. I reckon.
Sweat.
We just sweated.
Do you think it made you cooler?
Yeah.
But like you see in old church pictures, everything, you see these people with these hats, fedoras, and these suits. And
Yeah.
there ain't, you know, and it's summertime, there's grass everywhere, and I'm just, how in the world?
Well, it was hot, but they
That's just-
did.
I mean,
I know.
you would literally stink the
In
whole
the
time.
West, well, that's probably, he didn't take a bath. They didn't do
People
baths.
No,
didn't,
they
people didn't
took
wear
a bath.
deodorant then, did they?
Yes,
No.
they sure did.
Not back old time day. Did you
well,
wear it?
well,
when you were young?
sure.
What was it?
Most of the time, Tussie. I like that. They were
Powder.
a jar, no, with a little cotton, round cotton in it, and you take one and it had something on it and put it on. It smelled good. And I guess they had Secret. I don't know. It's old. They've had that for years. I can't remember that now. But I'll tell you one thing. When I lived in Chattanooga, we just loved to used to walk downtown. There was a store called Lubman's. Was one of our most exclusive stores. Sort of like what's in New York?
Macy.
Macy's and something like that. And they had on the bottom down there, they had a 3-cent. That's all, everything was 3 cents. That whole room, 3 cents a piece. We'd go down there and buy a lot of things. And a lot of times when they'd have upstairs, see, everything was so expensive. It was expensive, but now it'd be cheap, you know. And then we never did buy any clothes there. But we'd go in that 3 cents counter and buy a lot of stuff. You could buy everything. Needles, thimbles, thread, rulers, crayons, whatever you wanted. Everything was 3 cents. And we had a peanut store. Sold nothing but all kinds of peanuts. And outside, they had a man that had a peanut on. He looked like a peanut. You seen these pictures, that man with the glass on his eye? That's what he was dressed like.
Tom's Peanuts.
And every time you'd
Planters.
pass that store, there was a girl with him. She'd give a spoonful of peanuts in your hand. They'd give them away to get you to come in.
Yeah.
And then you could look at that peanut man for about 30 seconds, and then look up in the sky and you'd see him up there. You ever tried that?
Yeah.
Now, see, can you imagine a little kid being in Hampton, hear her talk
Yeah.
about stuff like
Peanut
that?
Man.
Was, wasn't it?
Peanut Man!
And he had on black pants. He looked nice.
I've got one more question. This is just kind of off topic, but your life spans a huge jump in technological advancements compared to any other time in history. And what to you that personally benefited you? What has been like the greatest invention, so to speak, that's helped your life because you've saw it? Like, for instance, a washing machine would be an example.
Well, now, we had a washing machine.
Yeah, but I mean,
What did you not have?
like
that
we
was
have
later
washing
invented?
machines. Our children will have washing machines. They'll get more sophisticated, but we won't have to do it. Period. You came from the point where you actually had to do it and where they made them. You see what I'm saying? Like, was there anything besides like a washing machine that you?
Like,
We didn't
helped
have
her
an
life
electric
most that
stove.
is that what you're trying to
An
say?
electric stove?
We didn't have electric stove,
Okay.
and we didn't. My mother had an oil stove,
Yeah.
but she had a coal stove. We used coal and wood, and my mother had a kitchen cabinet. Only thing that was in our kitchen at home was a kitchen cabinet. Her dishes was held up here, and there's a big old bin right here, and she used 24-pound sack of flour. She'd pour it in there and sift it out at the bottom. And then she had a crock about this big that would hold 3 pounds of jewel lard, and it set in this part here, and down below was her pots and pans. And our stove had a warming closet to it. You know what a warming closet is?
No.
Okay, it's a coal and wood stove that had 4 eyes. Some of them had a hot water heater. I mean, a hot water tank to it, the water'd heat. And what am I talking about?
Talking about stoves, technology.
Stove, that closet.
And
that warming
they
closet.
had two doors up, had a back to it, and up at the top it had 2 doors. And they closed. You could open them up, you know. And you kept your food, like if you fixed your breakfast and you had some food left, you want to save it for dinner, or had lunch, and then want to save it for dinner, put it up there and keep it warm. It's wonderful. Now, we kept stuff warm all day, and a lot of people won't do that.
Yeah.
But we did.
Yeah.
And like I said, we didn't, but what was in our kitchen was that cabinet, that stove over here, and our table and 6 chairs. And we didn't even have water in our kitchen.
So would you say that you saw the change is really great is the kitchen? Has really
Yeah,
evolved?
because when Mother got a refrigerator, it tickled her to death. And
so
then
much freedom after that, huh?
And we didn't have to use that ice box, and we didn't have to have ice box to put ice in because she had the refrigerator. But we never did have a bathtub at this last house we lived in, and we still had to take a bath. Everybody took a bath. Even when it's cold, we'd have a fireplace. We had a fireplace in every room of the house except the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But the refrigerator, icebox rather, was set in a room, little room by itself. And then off from the bedroom, we had another little room that held Mother's quilts and her stuff like that. And it seemed like we had nothing in our house but beds. Even in our living room, we had to have a bed.
Oh, good.
And a couch and a chest of drawers.
Hmm.
I don't know how we lived. There was a lot. My mother, my daddy, and my sister, my other sister, and her 2 children lived in that 4-bedroom house.
I'm just asking and just jump in, guys, but I got another one too.
Well, I've got one. You've went twice.
That's what I said. Jump in.
If you could change anything back to the way it used to be before you were married, like anything, would you change anything back to the way it used
Do you
to
mean
be?
her personal life, or
Different things.
items?
Yes, I'm talking about items. I would. You know how we get candy now? We used to get that for a penny a piece.
That's cheaper candy. Cheaper candy.
You know what a Baby Ruth looks like now?
Yeah.
We got them little. We used to buy the big ones about this long. My mother sold candy. Man, it was long, and they were not over a nickel. But we could take a nickel and go to the store and get a lot of candy.
That's good. But I think what he's meaning is like some people think that technology sometimes can get away from it.
That was the answer I wanted.
Okay, never mind. That's good.
That's a
And
good one.
also,
Candy used to be cheaper.
there's a man would come around selling popsicles, and now it comes around in a truck. You know, you've seen
Swans
them.
and stuff.
He would push a cart. You could buy a brownie, a milk cow, brown cow,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And a dreamsicle. We had them,
We had ice cream trucks.
and I don't know what all. And then there would be a man come by in a truck selling peaches. My mother'd buy a bushel of peaches and can them. And my mother always had a garden, Mother and Daddy. And we had black people that lived close to us. I had little black playmates. We got along
So we
good.
didn't even know what black people were.
But they wouldn't let, the blacks had their own church. They had their own movie.
Yeah.
They had their own restaurants. They wouldn't let them in our restaurants. And I didn't know a black person couldn't vote. I thought a black person had the same rights we did. I didn't know that. No, they couldn't vote.
So, was racial prejudicism or whatever?
Well, no, we got along
No, no.
good.
Was it? So it wasn't in your family, just taught and passed down, because it was for a lot of families. That
It was Daddy's.
Yeah, especially the mountain people. But it wasn't in yours, you don't think?
No.
No, we
Tell them about the bums coming to Memaw.
oh, everybody knew my mother's house. You know, we had cowboys. We had hobos. You know what a hobo is?
Yeah.
Because the train station up there. They'd come to our back door and knock on the door, and Mother would invite them in and sit them at our table and cook them a meal. Fry 'em, she didn't have nothing. She'd fry 'em several eggs.
And Papa Phillips didn't
We
like
always
he didn't
had
like
biscuits.
I don't blame them,
that
because
part
they
of
could
Memaw.
easily.
Well, I'm talking about my mother.
Because Mama's side of the family was so good to them. People
But my mother
caring,
could have been killed.
and
You know,
even
people.
even drinking. Papa could sort drunk. They had beer. Mama'd go buy beer, and they, she
I
never
wouldn't buy mine.
thought nothing about it.
My daddy used to
And
buy
then
beer in a
Daddy's
quart
side of
jar,
family
black
just-
label.
They did it,
Mm.
but
And
they
blue
didn't.
ribbon.
They didn't do it in public.
Hit it, yeah. I got more. Unless you all want to go
No,
again.
no, I've got
I'm
one.
done for tonight.
I've got one. No, keep
Go
that
for
horse
it.
for
Go
you.
for it then.
Okay, let me ask this. What would you, having all your children, 5 children, what would you have liked to have had that we've got now today in 2010? What would you like to have had that would have helped make your life easier with your 5 children?
An automatic washer.
Washing machine and microwave.
Refrigerator.
Refrigerator.
I had a refrigerator.
Got-
and I
now
had
that's
a
what got
freezer.
women out of the kitchen.
I had a refrigerator and I had a freezer and I had an electric stove. You ought to have seen the first electric stove I had. It was a second hand, but I was tickled to death with it.
So,
Yeah,
so a wash machine and a dryer, or just a
I
wash
had
machine?
and then after I got a washing machine, I was glad I got it. But we used a rub
Wash
board
machine.
and.
I could see that having clothes.
But let me tell you what my mother did with our washing machine. She had a washing machine. She'd wash her clothes on a rub board, put them in that washing machine, wash them, take them out of that washing machine and put them in a black pot outside the bowl. Her white clothes. Prettiest white clothes,
I bet.
soft.
I bet they didn't last too long either.
Well, they did,
I
but
bet
she
you did long,
did,
didn't
I don't, and she used lye soap. She made it.
All right.
And hominy.
What's your
She
Now
made her
this,
hominy.
this is kind of a. I like to study the system of things and why they are the way they were then and how they are now and compare them. Okay, now how your first date with Papa was and how he had to come to the door.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember? They might have courted outside of this or whatever, but did my mom and dad, when their first date, did he come and pick her up? How was that? How'd that go down?
Your daddy did. They had to beg me a long time to let him get out with him.
Oh, really?
And if I'd have known, he worked at a plane where there was an airplane. What
Yeah.
is it?
He fueled airplanes.
And
up in,
they went to New York. I didn't know. It might have been
Beach.
on my
my
head.
mom went to New
They
York.
went to Myrtle Beach.
Oh,
They
okay,
went to
say-
New York.
Myrtle Beach.
Hold on. What now, me mom?
They went to New York. She told me. He had to. He went with this man. I don't know. That's what they went. They didn't have to pay nothing.
Yeah.
It's Captain Kangaroo, wasn't it?
But like the very first date, like she finally so she had to really convince you to let him go out with him.
Yes.
Let her go out with him.
Yes.
And that first
Hey,
date.
but I never could get rid of him when he come. I had to work the next day. I wanted to go to bed. I
he would
said,
come over-
Tina, I told her she had to be in. She had to be in by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And well, they would,
Yeah.
but they'd sit there and talk. I guess that's what they's doing. And I wanted to go to bed.
Where
and
were
I'd
you
go
at?
in
In
there.
the living room
Well,
or
I
bedroom?
tried to. I was in and out, but I'd
Yeah.
try to go in there and
Why
lay
didn't you just tell him to
down.
leave?
It's
I
part
did. I
Probably
didn't say
smooching
leave.
around. Here she comes.
what I did, I said, Tina, it's bedtime. I've got to get up in the morning. Well, I reckon he wouldn't, I don't know, they just still time say, okay, mother, we will.
So
Take a
he
hint,
should
did
have took the hint and went home.
But
Yeah,
he
okay.
didn't, and then finally they,
Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask the
Oh.
question. You asked the question. Did mother have heirlooms or handed? We did from her mother, but Danny, my brother Danny, when he died, mother moved and she left Danny. She didn't have a place because I didn't have a place in my little apartment. Wayne and Star, I don't know where they lived. He was
Virginia.
married to Star, Virginia, and so Danny got the furniture. Memaw Resort, it was Mama's. It was an old shiffer robe. It had one full length mirror, and you open it up and you hang your clothes in it. One side was drawers, and the mirror it was what Mama had when she got married
and a hat
to hang
box.
her clothes, and it had a little hat box at the top of it that you pulled in where you put a big tall man's hat, where I put sweaters in. And then she had your hope chest, and I've got that. That's up at the house.
I bought it.
It's a cedar chest. Mother bought that when she was there.
You,
And like she said, the pillow. Now I slept on that as a little girl.
And it
It's
had
a
a
feather
bedspread.
pillow. And I've still got the feather bed pillow.
I had that cedar chest full. It's called a hope chest then, but let me tell you why I didn't have stuff. I didn't have no place to put it. My sister lived with us. Her husband was in service, and her little girl, baby, and she had a bedroom suit. My sister Irene lived in the other bedroom, and she had her stuff with 2 children, and I didn't have no room to fix nothing but a suitcase.
Oh.
But I didn't have no room to put nothing except my cedar chest.
Yeah.
And I give $39 for it.
Wow.
Paid it off $1.25 a week from Hatfield and Keith
Really? Is that where that come from?
in Chattanooga.
Well,
But and now this right here, one more story. This ring right here, this is Mama's engagement, her wedding ring. Her second one that Daddy gave her, and Tina, your mother, has the. Here, Mother. Tell
Now
me
that's
about that.
something
Tell
I
about
give my
Daddy.
girls. This is we was going to Chattanooga,
For Christmas. To
For
see
Christmas.
Aunt Ann and Aunt Jean.
and just before we got there, he gave me this, a set of rings, and my brother got a ring.